Continue. So we just got to keep an eye out, I guess, for participants if people show up.
Okay.
Okay.
And the meeting started?
I think we, yeah.
Welcome everybody to the Pownell Conservation Commission meeting of May 9th. May 14th, 2024. I will call the meeting to order. Thank you. With the meeting called to order, why don't we go around and say, do a roll call here? So Nate, if you could say your name.
Sure. Nathan Fowle, present.
William Cottrell here.
Margaret Cody present.
Kate Cooper present.
Jeannie Alexander present.
Megan Randall, present.
All right, great. So let's get started here with the approval of minutes from April 9th, 2024. Does anyone have any changes that they wanted to make to the meeting minutes?
Yeah.
All in favor of accepting them, say aye.
Aye.
Let's say our names. I think that's what we're,
Okay, sure. Nathan Fowle, aye.
William, I.
Guess I abstained because I wasn't at the meeting.
okay.
So Margaret abstained.
Okay, Kate Cooper, aye.
Jeannie Alexander, aye.
Megan Randall, aye.
Excellent. Approve the minutes. All right, let's get started on reports and updates. Updates, the status of this seventh commission seat. I checked with Tara and we still have not filled that. So folks here, if you know anyone who might be excited about this, or if anyone's listening and they think of someone, please send them to Tara because we are looking for one more seat on the Conservation Commission to be filled.
Have we advertised that at all? Or has it just been word of mouth?
I think it's on the website.
Yeah, it's on the website.
But that doesn't mean advertising.
I think it's also been the paper as well. That's not advertising. I mean, it's
Yeah.
earned me, but
We could probably just as sort of an individual citizen, put it up on like Front Porch Forum or something like that, just to kind of get it out there, you know?
I'll do
Do
that.
we have a volunteer for that, Megan?
Cool. Megan?
Great. Okay. All right, the next item is the next steps on outreach to both the Parks and Recreation Committee and the Planning Commission. So I can go ahead and address the outreach to Parks and Rec. I sent an email to Jennifer Boucher and she let me know that Parks and Rec has been really busy. They're still kind of waiting to get started, but they will be in touch with us. I shared that we would like to head out on a hike to the new trails that are open. She said, go ahead and set a date with the Conservation Commission, let them know if they can attend, they will. That'll have to be an open meeting. We'll warn it so that the public can attend with us. But I thought this would be the moment in our agenda when we could set that hike date. So if folks have their calendars, why don't we put that proposed date together right now? Tara, let me know that the first week of June is not a good date because that's the motocross week.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be busy out there.
so maybe second week of June, are we thinking more like a weekend or like a late afternoon, maybe a 5 PM hike? How long are we thinking? How long do we want to take?
So we hiked up there to kind of just take a peek and like, there's a really pretty waterfall that you can kind of get a glimpse of. That's what, probably half an hour in or something like that.
Yeah, let's see if I can.
Oh yeah, Bill's got it on the GPS there.
Okay.
Or we could hike up to if you go a little farther, you can get to the like Fish and Game Camp cabin. And that's all just kind of off that sort of one main road there. And I don't think anyone's really explored too far sort of off in any direction beyond that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty steep and strenuous. So I think, you know, especially if we're trying to kind of bring community people in, maybe just going to that waterfall is the way to go. It's just kind of a nice spot and you can really kind of see the quality of the whole place in doing that, you know, walk up along the river and it's very pretty.
It is kind of steep once you get to the camp, basically from the camp up,
Yeah.
pretty steep area.
What if we set aside 2 hours? That's.
I think that'd probably be
People, and
plenty.
it's an extra commitment, but
Yeah.
feels
It
like.
took us 2 hours, an hour and 54 minutes.
But we went a lot further than the
Yeah.
waterfall. So yeah, that should be fine.
Okay.
2 hours should be.
I feel like a weekend might be better for me if that's not
That's
a
fine.
position for others. What if we did, what if we tentatively set the date as this weekend of the 15th? I have a commitment in the morning, but would people be able to do the afternoon on the 15th of June?
Is that what was it? If that's a Saturday,
Yeah, I could do either day that weekend.
I could do. I could do Saturday afternoon, but it would have to be after the farmer's market. And so for me, I wouldn't be available until probably after 3 p.m. on a Saturday.
That would work for me if it works for folks.
Sure.
Cooler then.
Yeah.
Well,
So go 3 to 5,
3:30 to 5:30?
3:30 to 5:30.
Sounds good.
I'll be traveling, but my schedule is very hard to plan around,
Okay.
so I'll recreate it another time.
wait, so it's,
We can pick another date, Margaret, if that's.
No, I appreciate that, but
Okay.
I don't have that much certainty over where I'll be in some of those weekends.
so it was the 15th?
The 15th from 3:30 to 5. So we'll have to warn that. And Nate, are you on tech?
Maybe.
We can come back to that, but we do need someone to warn this, or make sure it gets warned, and communicate with Tara.
Oh, just to get it up online. Yeah, I can do that. I mean, honestly, it seems like really Tara has to do the majority of the work. All I have to do is kind of tell her
Okay.
when it is. Is that something that we should try and put up on Front Porch Forum or put in the paper or something as well?
Sure, I can do that. I mean, I haven't, I'm very comfortable with FFP, FPF, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Why don't we give it a name? Walk with, I mean, I would have walk Pownell Trails with CC, but what do we want to?
Pownell Town Forest hike?
Yeah, or meet the Pownell Town Pownell Town Forest. But I'm gonna say with conservation.
Yeah. And then I'll invite Parks and Rec.
Cool.
The other piece is that Jennifer Boucher suggested we invite the Green Mountain Club as well.
Mhm.
It's the Conservation Commission and the Recreation.
I think, I think I need to check with Jennifer to make sure that folks can make
Okay.
it, but she suggested we start by setting a date, so.
Okay.
So maybe hold off though on front.
Oh, sure.
porch.
Yes,
Okay.
perfect.
You know?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Uh,
cool.
Do we have some sort of contact at the Green Mountain Club?
I don't, but I'll ask
Okay.
Jennifer. And I'll let you know. Okay, great. Megan, what about with the planning commission? I know last time you'd mentioned that maybe we could have a liaison, or you could be the liaison
Yeah,
to
uh,
planning commission.
well, the planning commission is, the people on it, and so it's very, very geared as, this is true in every town. That the planning commission is very geared toward, development.
Mhm.
And very geared toward development in this, verbally, though nothing ever happens. That's the gear. And so they're really wanting to change some of the zoning in the new town plan. Well, you don't change zoning in the town plan, but change bylaws and zoning and to reflect a desire to have more development in the town. So at most towns at some point, I was just down on Long Island, for example, and someone I know had been fighting very, very hard against a developer who wanted to take down an entire hillside, sell the sand, build an enormous warehouse to store multi-millionaires' boats, big yachts. And at temperature controlled so that their electronics wouldn't get messed up over the winter. So they wouldn't have to go all the way to Florida or wherever. So that's the kind of divide that is always there, is all what I'm saying. So I'm just watching.
So I think it would be really valuable. Sorry, Jeannie, go ahead.
No, I just, I don't know,
Yeah.
but I think that's more the reason to have someone.
Yeah,
As a
well,
liaison.
I'll let you know if, when the, you know, uh, some of this stuff like changing bylaws, changing zoning, I don't know, I find it, I find it hard. I don't know, it's hard to judge what the future, what the repercussions will be in the future. And, you know, some of it's just personal, preferences. It's, Vermont and the state of Vermont is very conservation minded. But, you know, the people of Vermont have differing opinions on it. So, and really resent wetlands having to be preserved and so on. So we know this, right? I'm not telling you anything.
I was just gonna say that I think part of our remit is kind of an inventory. And that should probably inform zoning choices, right? So that we could be clear on areas that had historic or ecological or value of another type as an input.
Yes, as an input.
Where the zoning would be more or less
Yeah.
appropriate, zoning changes.
Yeah, the thing is that, yeah, I think the town plan as it stands, and I'm sure we've all read it, is quite, I think it's quite good in terms of, even in terms of assessment. I don't think there's a lot missing. But it's just not up to date. And especially the stuff in the floodplain, I think, is a concern because, things have changed since that was passed. You know, we've had hurricanes and,
So I think that one of the questions, maybe Megan, I'm taking a question from what you're saying, which is like, how can we take the work that we do and use it to drive decisions that serve our future? If we're gonna have economic development, how do we make sure that's done in a way that protects our joint future? And
yeah,
And so-
exactly, because we do. I mean, all of us want more of an economy in Pownell. I mean, we want places to buy things. We want a cafe. We all want that, you know? We want to be able to support local workers, you know? So it's just how.
Yeah.
And so far, as I said, there's been a lot of talk. There's two kinds of, you know, you're familiar with the SWOT, you know, strengths, weaknesses. What's the,
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities.
opportunities
threats.
and threats. So there's two of those, and one was done by an extremely right-wing organization, and one was done by BCRC. So, and they differ.
Yeah.
A little, you know, a little. You know, in the tone of one is that there's all these barriers to development.
Yeah.
And that's the tone of some members of the planning commission, but you know, it's got to get, we have to have, something has to happen. you
Yeah,
know?
I'm wondering if that's a good segue to the next bullet point, because it feels like if we need to keep that line of communication open. So
Mhm,
actually, I didn't have this on here, but it's making me wonder if in the bullet point that says upcoming visitors to Pownell Conservation Commission meetings, if we should invite, I know you're on the planning commission, but I wonder if we should invite someone else just so that we can build that relationship and keep that conversation open. Do you want to think about that, Megan?
Sure.
It might be interesting to try to bring in one of the people who you feel like is more sort of.
Okay, so that-
Development,
Yeah.
just to really show them that we want to kind of work with them and sort of find a way to sort of meet the goals together, you know?
Yes, yes.
Who's the chair?
The chair is
Just bring the
John
chair.
Bushy, but I think we'd want to talk to Bob Jarvis.
Oh, uh-huh,
I suggest that would.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I definitely agree with
Very
that.
intelligent.
Okay, I can add that.
yeah.
Thank you, Megan. Those,
So do we need to do you want to make that ask then, or should that ask come
I
more
think it should
officially from
come
us?
from
I think
the
as a
chair.
commission.
I think you're right. Let's come back to that in 1 second, because I wanted to share with everybody who I had thought of, and maybe you have others to add to the list, and maybe we can then take them out and decide who maybe we should ask whom for which month. So feel free to chime in if you had people that I don't have on this list, but I had Jim Henderson, who has agreed to come on June 11th. He I don't remember his official title, but he does environmental related work for the Bennington County Regional Commission and has done so for, I don't know, 3 or 4 decades now. Michael Fernandez could not join us tonight. He's not feeling well. So I asked him if he could come on July 9th. So that's the next 2 months. I
And
also-
who is Michael
Oh, I'm
Fernandez?
sorry, go ahead.
Who is Michael Fernandez?
He's the chair of the Bennington
Oh,
County
oh,
Conservation
okay,
District.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Other people I had that names I've heard come up over and over are Sarah Gardner, who's the Associate Director for the Center for Environmental Studies.
Yes.
Definitely.
He's right there on the.
Donald Campbell, who is the Director of the Vermont Land Trust in our area. I had Hoorah, so I've been speaking with Lauren Stevens, but there are other folks there who I have also communicated with who are excited to come talk to us at some point soon. I spoke with Barbara True Weber, but I believe either she was on the Concom in the past or she knows folks who were. So when I spoke to her, she's a Pownell resident. Does everyone here know Barbara? She's
Yes.
Met her.
Yeah, she's also involved in the climate
Advocates of Bennington.
Climate Advocates of
She's the
Bennington,
chair.
Climate 350. And
And yeah,
I think she may be able to provide some historical perspective on our work. Hank Art, I spoke to again, he was a Williams biology professor. He's on the Conservation Commission in Williamstown.
oh, okay.
I had Green Mountain Club, I just added, we talked about Bob Jarvis. So that's a lot of people. You may have folks that you think maybe would want to join as well. I mean, really, anybody who wants to come join us is welcome.
I have a professor down at MCLA, Elaine Traster. And I didn't know if there'd be some kind of collaboration. So she was thinking, next start of fall semester,
Okay.
but maybe we could pull in before then or whatever. See if there's anything that,
What does she teach?
she's the environmental studies, the chair of the environmental studies.
Cool.
Maybe someone at the Nature Conservancy. I was just like poking around on the maps the other day and I noticed that they own not only the sort of quarry area, but this really huge swath of woods kind of extending out from there. And I'd be interested to hear just kind of what their plans are.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's a great idea.
Ruth Botsow was very involved in that and she could tell you a lot.
Yes, Ruth, she was on my list.
Mhm.
And yes, absolutely. I know she would have that historical context.
Cool.
No, it might be interesting to have Bob Jarvis at the same time that we have Michael Fernandez, and here's why. I'm just thinking about and begin what you were saying about development and like, from my perspective anyway, I'm not opposed to development.
No,
I am a conservationist and I am pro-development. I think that we're going to have some really smart development.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Michael is working really hard toward in Bennington, this district, is agricultural development. And doing that in a sustainable way and in a way that is, I think, obtainable for a lot of people, because I think we actually have a lot of people who are farming in Pownell, whether that's a 2-acre farm or a 200-acre farm. And I think that's legitimate development. And so it might be interesting to have Bob present in one of our meetings. We're doing what we normally do. And I think there's probably enough time if we're budgeting our time wisely.
Mhm.
So, I mean, at least have some room. He could certainly ask Michael questions.
I think that's a great idea. Maybe we could even have a theme discussion around development, it's a big word. It can mean a lot of different things. So maybe we can start
It
to
does.
define principles. I'm happy to reach out to Bob if that seems appropriate. I can see if he could join us on July 9th with Michael. Does that feel okay with folks? Okay. Beyond that, I don't want to look too far ahead because things change, you know?
Yeah.
Throw out a list. Maybe that's enough for now and we can come back to this next time unless.
I do think inviting Donald Campbell would be great sooner rather than later, just to maybe answer questions on some of the limitations of how the town forest is used as part of the agreement.
I wonder if you could come on June 11th with Jim Henderson. That might be another productive. They know each
That sounds like
other.
a great idea.
Okay, so July 9th would be Bob and
And
Michael. And June 11th
Mm-hmm.
is
Could be Jim and Donald.
Jim Henderson and Don Campbell. Okay.
Okay. And we can just keep those other
Mhm.
names, you know.
I know Sarah
Percolating.
mentioned that like next semester or the fall semester.
Yeah.
Maybe we get to try to create a scope before then and then really.
Yeah, for some student work. Yeah. Let's come back to that because that's actually coming up and let's keep that in our minds. The next item here is the Association of Vermont Conservation Commission's membership. So Margaret.
Yeah, we are confirmed members of the association, so that's great. When I asked for kind of a rundown of some of the member benefits, I think it's things that we're already aware of, but they pointed us to their handbook, which kind of takes you through different stages from starting a commission to, you know, strategic planning and things like that. It does make us eligible for the Tiny Grant Program, which is once a year. So we were starting right as they were closing applications for those grants this time, but if we were
Yeah.
looking towards that, we could plan for it next year. And obviously their listserv is another benefit. I'm signed up for their listserv and we can all sign up for that. And then also post questions or thoughts or ideas there. So, yeah, so we're all squared away there.
Awesome.
Mhm.
And was that a gift that you gave?
Yeah,
Thank you, Margaret.
yeah, sure, my pleasure.
All right. And if you haven't signed up for the ABCC listserv, please let me know and I'll send you the sign up link. Because it's great that you have a lot of webinars and things like that. All right, the Bennington County Conservation District Stormwater Forum. Jeannie, can you tell us what's going on with that?
Yep, sure can. So what's going on with that is unfortunately, again, hopefully Michael is back on his feet soon. But there's a lot of planning that goes into that. And so he is asked the district is planning on bumping that for a month. And it would be nice to have it as a collaboration with the commission here. And so I think we're thinking is June 23rd.
It's
Okay. Do we have a location yet? Or is that TBD?
That is TBD.
Okay.
And I think I may go ahead and just sort of steer that a bit, go ahead and take
Okay.
that on. And so take something off of Michael's plate. And so that will be TBD much sooner than later. We'll get that taken care of.
And for folks here and just anyone who might be listening, what's the benefit of going to the Stormwater Forum?
Well, I mean, I think the benefit of going to the stormwater forum, I think there are a couple of benefits. One is to just get connected with and know your conservation district. Like we have a very active district within Vermont that's doing a lot of different work. Two, I know that we're all thinking about flooding, quite frankly. We're thinking about climate change. That's definitely clearly happening to us. And talking about plans for that, ways to address it. And Mike will be bringing in several, I know, experts in the area as well. So I've been to one of these before. It was last year and I found it very informative and helpful. And also it'd be nice to have one of the conservation district meetings in Pownell. And so that more of our people get to know about it.
so did you line it up for the library?
Well, Michael and I were discussing different
Okay,
venues
so
for it. We could, my concern is every time I think a place is going to be sufficient to hold it, we've been getting really good numbers of these forums. So I think wherever we go, we need to make sure it can comfortably hold 50 people. And if the library can, that's great. The other place we thought about was the outdoor pavilion, right?
We had the Legion.
Oh, yeah, that's
Mhm.
nice. Yeah.
Because I think that would definitely comfortably fit 50 folks and that's covered if it's rainy.
Oh, that's true.
And it should be really nice.
Yeah.
Late June,
Be beautiful.
What's the date again? June?
June 23rd.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, the next item is the DEC Watersheds United Vermont Clean Water Workforce Development Capacity Block Grant, which we had a motion to go for and apply for. And I worked with Tara on this and I worked with Michael Fernandez and, you know, after a long conversation with Michael, he really said, you know, you could go for this, but among other things, one of the core things they're looking for is to add a staff person. And I don't think we're ready for that right now. I'm not sure the town's ready for that. They have a fall application. This is a pilot grant, so there's a fall version. If it so happens that maybe we're ready for something like that, then and the town is open to it, we can reconsider it. But Michael really felt that he could provide us with the support that we need to begin the inventory, the inventories we need to do. And that other folks could help us with that too. And he didn't feel that this was the only way to do it. So we decided not to go for it. So that's the update.
I'm glad there's so much help available.
Yeah, I actually am talking to folks. It sounds like we have a lot of different avenues.
That's great.
Yeah.
It seemed a little rushed to me, when we were talking about it.
It was, we could have put it together.
Yeah.
But I think that the deal breaker is just adding staff. I think that it could have helped to fund the inventory, but, you know, to add a staff person for, you know, a part-time salary for a year and a half is just, that's not really feasible right now.
Yeah, it's very hard to fill something like that.
Yeah.
All right, outreach to nearby conservation commissions. I have an update on that. I don't know if anyone else does.
No, I'm sorry, I should.
Okay, so I had a really lovely coffee with two members of the Williamstown Concom. That was Hank Hart and Lauren Stevens. And they have a really comprehensive knowledge of Pownell, you know, having lived and worked here for so many years. And I can just share out a few of the things that they told me that I think are just directions for us to explore. One of them is that we have a lot of bogs in town, including a quaking bog, which I did not know, which excited
What
me.
kind of bog?
A quaking bog.
Quaking bog. I've never even heard of that.
Quaking bogs are truly amazing. They quake when you stand on them because the ground is not solid.
I know that at Williams College takes students out to see a spot where there's very special plants on bogs and also lady slippers. The Pownell is like a world center of
So
lady slippers.
talked about
But
that.
they will never tell anyone where it is. It's like a deep secret. It's like when you have morels.
Maybe, because he was telling me that Jane Addams of Funny Farm Road has, I believe she is either connected to or has a bog and a fen on her property, or maybe a bog. Some of these names came up that, you know, the people we might want to talk to. Joan Edwards is a biology professor at Williams who's been interested in the bogs that I believe that Addams either has been protecting or owns. I'm not quite sure. And there's a historical thesis about the fen and bog by someone named Eric Bentley from the 60s that maybe we could dig up. I mean, this is kind of some information to help inform our inventory.
Love to read that.
They both recommended that we connect with Donald and Hoorah to understand the racetrack status and the land down there. I thought was really good.
That's interesting.
Not-
So Donald has something to say about the racetrack?
No, Hank and Lauren from the Williamstown Concom, they recommended that we learn
Oh, we learned. Oh, yeah.
because it's right next to the river and it's,
I know, it's
Health hazard in its current.
a terrible hazard if there were a flood.
so.
Imagine all that asbestos and other things going downstream.
Yeah, so that's definitely something we should probably know about. They both suggested that we commission Williams students and maybe now MCLA students to help us with some of our work, the win-win for everybody. They let me know that the research shows that the PCBs that are in the river here are highly concentrated above the dam, it's down by the water. And because, you know, the sediments, they come in, they settle and the PCBs are in the sediments. So, you know, that's something we should probably learn more about to understand the hazard, because if that dam were ever to be compromised, that would cause a lot of PCB sediment to be released into the water column. I believe Bill Greenewald either does or did own that dam, and I think it's generating electricity. They recommended that we connect with ANR Jay Rosella, who teaches Intro to Environmental Science at Williams and is in the Environmental Analysis Lab, as well as Sarah Gardner. Proposals for interns would be for next summer. We should start to think about that. And then there's a fall course that maybe we want to start thinking about now, and that might be true for your contact at MCLA as well. And then they also recommended that if we have GIS layers and the mapping that's been done already, some of that needs to be ground truthed. And that's something that maybe we could assist with or promote or be involved in. So it was a really great conversation. No like immediate action items, but just more information for us to think about.
One thought that brought up for me is, I know Bennington College has, students in the winter time do this like, it's like a month and a half long
Okay.
kind of field work, term. So that might be another good opportunity to get a student with some sort of interesting project in mind.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Well, now that we're part of the association and this
Mhm.
listserv, I think that gives us an avenue to meet with other Conservation Commission
Yeah.
members. And the association has a board and they've made themselves available to us as new members if we have questions or things like that. So
Yeah.
I think we can decide how to make use of that network
Mhm.
now for learning from our peers.
Yeah, that's a great thing to keep in mind. Let's come back to that in a minute. We have in our new business, we have a discussion that I think I want to bring some of these threads back to. So let's come back to that in a few minutes here. All right, so finishing up our updates. Trail mapping online, Nate, have you been able to?
Yeah, I've made some good
Yeah.
headway. I've got a pretty good list of, hiking trails. I talked with, Joyce from the Historic Society and got kind of her list of kind of important points of interest, old houses, things like that, cemeteries we could maybe, I think the goal is to sort of start with hiking trails and then kind of work our way out from there. But All Trails already has pretty good coverage thanks to I don't know who, but maybe partially Bill. So there's just, I think the only trail that needs to go up on there is the like Fish and Wildlife area, which is on the opposite side of that bog with Funny Farm Road running down there. And then, Google Maps is kind of tricky. You have to become a local guide to sort of post stuff up there. So I'm starting to work on kind of a protocol for like how to go through that process. And then sort of looking one step further, it's about like writing reviews of the trails, putting pictures up, adding extra sort of information about it in sort of high visibility places. So I think it's a great project and I'm happy to kind of just keep on plugging away at it. Yeah.
Okay, and if we make this a standing item, do you want to let us know if there's things we can help with?
Sure, yeah, definitely. I think I'll need another month just to really kind of iron out exactly sort of what the procedures are to sort of get them out there in the most effective way. And then once we've got that, then I can sort of hand something
Okay.
that will allow anybody to do it if they want to.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
cool.
I wonder if some of the horse farms in the area know about some trails or if there are some networks that they're aware of.
There's,
The different horse farms and.
Oh, horse farms, sure.
there's a lot of sort of locals that have these little sort of secret trails going off from different
Like
places.
this, well, the Tubbs got on, I think it's on Google now.
Oh, yeah, the Tubbs is already, that secret is out officially. I didn't do that,
A lot of
but.
people now.
There used to be trails everywhere,
Mhm.
kind of grew up, but still. I know All Trails would be a good place.
Yeah,
Get that posted. I think a lot of people use that.
yeah, definitely. And then, the new town forest, we can,
Yeah.
start marking out. We went up there and hiked around. I went up and marked a couple of spots on the trail where it looked like maybe there were little side trails that we could do some exploring on. So over time, we can kind of work on mapping that out on All Trails too.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, and the last item here is
Great.
posting of the state
Good work.
survey for conservation commissions on our website. Jeannie, did you have any updates about that?
I did, and I talked to Michael about that.
Yeah.
And he said that the survey they currently had need to be updated
Okay.
because there had been a collaboration with another district. And is going to sort of reboot that specifically for our district. And so hopefully that's back up shortly. It's not up yet, but as soon as it is, Nate, I can get it to, should I get it to you the link or to Tara directly?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, if you want to send it straight to Tara, like, there's not really anything that I can sort of
Okay.
add to it, unless you want me to like write some copy or something like
No,
that.
because I could do that. That's totally
Okay.
fine. I'll be the point for Tara.
Okay.
Okay. Great. And then I have a bullet point here for others. So if there's anything that, isn't here that should be in the updates. Let me know.
I don't know. The only thing, I sent the email on the community map, the community values. So I don't know if maybe going forward, we could create. They did just different bullet points: historic community places, scenic recreation, wildlife, farms, energy potential, hunting and fishing. So they kind of grouped up what people valued, and then, so it's,
Great.
the state does it for, would do it for us.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's something, maybe we could reach out and start working on that with the state.
Let's move that to our new business, because I think what I wanted to kind of have us circle around for the discussion is starting our work with the inventory, and that feels like that could be a part of it. So if you feel like we're done, if you feel like we're ready to move on from the update section.
Maybe
let's
you
go
can
to
just
new
let me know
business.
if this
Sure.
is in the new business or
Yeah.
goes by another, but in the banner a couple days ago, it talked about how Williams students are gonna help with the inventory of the forest with the, okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure
definitely.
that, I couldn't tell from the language whether that's what that was, okay.
Yeah, so let's move on to new business. We were supposed to have a visitor tonight, Michael Fernandez from the Bennington County Conservation District, but as we mentioned, he's not feeling well, so we won't be able to have that piece of the agenda tonight. So let's move on to our discussion. I wanted to just briefly, before we jump into the discussion of our remit and how we can accomplish it. Yeah, pull that out right now. I just wanted to briefly summarize some of the information we've received to date, and sort of building our relationships and starting to understand our work here. We have had a visit from the Parks and Rec Committee with Jen Boucher and Brian Fox. And they told us about their work with the new town forest. We had a visit from Tom Zolper of the Trolley Path Steering Committee and learned about his work with the committee and how that might promote both conservation and economic development in Pownell. We read the Pownell Town Plan as well as the Pownell Town Forest Interim Management Plan. And we received closing documents with easement information from Tara for the new town forest. So that's sort of a broad summary of what we have. We have the information that we have in front of us so far. So I was looking at this remit here, and it feels to me that in order for us to get started, we can't really analyze anything until we have an inventory. And that our step number one is to get these inventories underway. And I wanted to have an open discussion around that with some goals. One of those goals is for all of us to kind of briefly share with each other what we bring to the Conservation Commission, because we all come here with different skill sets, and it might be helpful to think about how to divide the work based on the skills that we bring to the group. Another goal was to divide up those inventories or divide up the work in a way that makes sense so that we can get started on actionable items. And then I also wanted for us to all have a discussion about the purpose of these inventories so that we all feel clear on why we're doing it. And if there's anything I'm missing from that, go ahead and add it, but if that feels okay as a frame for the discussion, get started.
I would be interested also in, you had mentioned that there's a lot of help available, right?
Yeah.
So not just dividing among the 6 people here, but like making use of the different organizations.
I know
Yeah.
in our 2019 plan, there are inventories. I think it would be good to, update that and verify, make sure that some of that is still true.
Yeah.
Yep, and to Margaret's point, we cannot possibly do this work ourselves, but we can, in small groups, I think, pull information together, connect with experts, propose ways to the group that we can get the information we don't have. And that alone will be a lot of work.
Yes.
I think also looking at what is mapped already or in the town plan? And, you know, is that everything we'd like to have in there? You know, there might be other things that we know about that
Mhm.
the person doing that last survey didn't know about, you know, should something like the tubs be in there?
Right.
You know, just different things that,
The Tubbs is private property. That's the problem with that.
yeah.
Well, let's,
It's, I mean, it is on that.
General, in
So-
It is
general.
a conservation, you know, it's still,
It should be, I've been.
I'm gonna take a step back here, because
Yeah,
I want to hear all this, but I want to have I have a little structure in mind that will help us keep this a little focused. And so I want to come back to that, but I did want to start with just people sharing up, like what you feel your personal strengths are to add, just because we're all getting to know each other as a group, and it might be helpful before we decide like how to do this work, if, to remind each other of what we all bring here and how we could, you know, work together. So I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you have like skills or knowledge that you feel like is especially beneficial to this group, like we should probably just restate that now. Nate, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any sort of specific background in environmental science or any kind of science really. I think for me, it's more just about kind of loving the town, loving the outdoor recreation. I'm really interested in kind of the local history angle. So I think sort of where I might be able to be the most useful is sort of working more on the kind of like historic and recreational side versus the environmental side, despite the fact that I'm very interested in learning more about that.
What you've done so far with you know, figuring out these maps and.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to keep
Invaluable.
working on that. And, you know, I think the Historic Society is going to be a really great asset to kind of leverage because they're kind of working on the same stuff. And I had a little talk with Joyce Heller, I think is her last. Held, she's awesome. And yeah, they're working, they already have some great like driving tours where you can see the churches in town. They're trying to kind of compile a bunch of information about sort of a lot of the same stuff on their website, which I think is great. I don't think that negates the need to put it on Google Maps too, but you know, there's a lot of information sharing that can happen there because they've done a ton of work already.
Great.
I'm also a photographer, so I don't know where that comes from, Kenny, but I'm happy to kind of leverage that.
I did not know that. That's great. Okay, awesome. Bill, do you want to go ahead?
so I think, you know, and I kind of almost brought this up before. So a conservation commission is not just the environment. It is, you know, a lot of different aspects. It's, you know, history and, you know, different things. So just being knowledgeable of the town. And then, you know, I have done a lot of research on, well, I've read a lot of research, you know, in the past that Pownell has been done in Pownell. And just kind of knowing some of the locations. I think, you know, getting out there and maybe boots on the ground kind of person.
Great. And you probably know folks.
Bill knows everybody.
So. adding that.
That's helpful.
Getting there. I don't know if I'm. It's always.
Great. Great. Margaret.
I would say my strengths are strategic planning, analytics, communications, budgets, numbers, writing, synthesizing, those types of things.
Think PR kind of.
Yeah.
Awesome. I guess we'll go in order. So I have a professional experience with marketing and graphic design. So there's a communication piece that I can bring to this. And I also have research experience in environmental science as well as education in environmental science. So in terms of understanding the issues and how they fit together, I think I can provide that kind of like synthesis. I've also done a lot of, I have a degree in sustainable landscape design. So that involves thinking about how pieces fit together. And then using those layers to kind of make a plan of action. So I think I can assist with that.
Okay, so I think, what I bring to this as well is a background, and a work background in strategic planning and policy work. And that's also helped inform my work with VACD, Vermont Association of Conservation Districts, and VCCD, both of which kind of different, it's different from what we're doing, is there is an eye to what's happening legislatively from a policy perspective with regards to conservation districts. And the kind of responsibilities and power, quite frankly, that county conservation districts have. And so I think that we need to develop a better understanding of that. And so that, along with a background in community organizing and work on ethnographies and building some coalitions. So when I think about inventories, I would be very interested in working on inventories of farms in Pownell. I think that's something, and that's something that we might be able to work on together. And actually getting out and having conversations with people, and bringing people in and having them become more involved.
So I'm a writer and I love writing and I'm a very descriptive writer. So I think, and I was a teacher. So I have a strong desire to express to people, so how many beautiful spots there are in Pownell and how much there is to see and, share. So, and I've also done informal community organizing, a lot, usually around cleanups for years, and recycling and things like that. But anyway, yeah, I think writing and enthusiasm and pretty solid knowledge of Pownell at this point, I think, getting there.
Okay, great. I can already see how people, how we could work together to get these 6 items done. It's not a small amount of work. I mean, I was feeling like what we should do tonight is decide how to divide up the inventory piece, and the other items feel like they're things that should wait, but if other people disagree.
I just feel like everything is subsequent to the first.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That way.
Makes
Yeah, it's,
total sense.
we can't really do any of the other items until we understand our own resources. So with that said, what I also wanted to throw out there to all of you, what is part of an inventory? Like, what does that word mean? Anybody will share your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, Jeannie, you touched on something that it's like, I think in some situations, these inventories cross into inventorying humans and
Yes.
things that they're working on. And so for some of these things, there's going to be this element of where are the farms, but also who are these people?
Yes.
What are they farming? What do they need? So, yeah, I mean, I think, we want to think about it sort of in that kind of holistic way as much as we can. Though that obviously is a lot more work and sort of makes things more difficult, but, maybe start with the list of things and then sort of start getting more knowledge as we sort of drill deeper, I guess.
So what would the pieces of an inventory be? Like, we're gonna make an inventory. What are the documents?
I mean, I do think, and I agree with what's been said earlier tonight, we need to go back to the 2019 inventory again. I know we've seen it, but we need to look at that with maybe through a different lens. And I think that inventories, that can sound very, I think,
Technical or.
very technical or very stale in a way, or it's
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
or
bureaucratic
very just sort of
more, yeah.
methodical. It's just a list. But inventories, I think, are also stories.
Yeah,
And I think
That's how I
that
see it.
in inventory, to engage people and have people want to contribute to an inventory, because we're going to need, I think, buy-in from this entire community. Let's all contribute to understanding that inventory. And maybe it's something that's on a piece of private property. Well, does that mean maybe it doesn't go on inventory or not? I mean, just being aware of what's around us.
well, yeah,
Right,
I
so-
can certainly talk to the people who own it and
Right, but I'm
maybe
just,
they'd want to put it in conservation.
Right, but just to that point, it's like, so there's the human inventory, there's the inventory of our our waterways, our
Yeah.
streams, the watershed that we are in, bogs, bends, like
Yeah.
inventories of trails, all of those things.
So, but
So what I'm asking, the question I'm asking, I have my own ideas about this, but I kind of want the group's thoughts. What are the documents that comprise
Hmm.
an inventory or that an inventory comprises technically?
no, the
Um,
president, yeah, I think you said it right the first time.
Count, you know, maybe.
Count. Yeah, what else?
Location, size,
Locations would be a map, is that right?
yes,
Maps.
Historical documents.
what, historical documents, yeah.
You know, like when I look, Mott has some maps that they do like rarity of the plants. So it's,
Maps.
you know, scarcity or the abundance, maybe.
You
Could
mentioned,
be invasive or, you know,
you mentioned the Nature Conservancy and that's conserved up at the quarry because of certain plants that are there that aren't other places, which is usually how they do it.
I had a few items on here, deeds and easements, scientific papers, research, interviews, so ethnography.
Yeah, I like getting into.
Photos. I mean, I'm trying to open this up to a broader idea than just a set of GIS maps, because I think that if that's all we do, we're gonna miss those human stories and it's getting at the, you know, items here that have historic, educational, cultural, scientific, architectural, or archaeological values in which the public has an interest. I'm not certain that should be conducted separately from item one, which is about water bodies, scenic and recreational resources, and agricultural and forest land. I'm sensing that maybe they need to be conducted at the same time.
Wouldn't it be interesting to like present the inventory? And I think, and I'm not trying to rope us into more time. I understand we've committed to a certain thing, but if folks were willing to, and maybe even some experts we identify, and by experts, I mean people who have expertise in a particular area. And I don't mean that necessarily like an erudite perspective, like it doesn't have to be Sneaky Academy. There are a lot of experts.
Have to have
but
a
like-
PhD.
Right, yeah, and it's, you know, but I think, if we could sort of start working on hammering out what this looks like, if we could sort of map this ourselves, and like, I am willing to spend like an entire afternoon doing that if we could find that. I mean, if we could just take a chunk of time, the giant whiteboard somewhere, so we can sort of start creating a map of this, but at the end point, rather than just having an inventory, not just, but an inventory to help inform the rest of our work here. But if we could have something for the rest of the town,
For the town.
like an exhibit.
Yeah, kind of a-
We all,
If we
yeah,
could
we all.
have an exhibit and invite people into it
Yeah.
and then give them a meaningful way to continue to contribute as sort of like they're walking out of the exhibit, a way to sign up and plug in.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that is very big picture.
Yeah, it is big picture, but I think it informs all of our thinking that we want to bring the town, we want more participation in so many ways. You know, more community coherence, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think we could go, you know, our time together is short, so a lot of this work's gonna have to take place outside of the meeting. And I think that, you know, if we can choose an approach tonight for how to move forward, we could schedule another meeting where we kind of did have a strategic approach to this. That we committed to more time, or we could also take right now what's on our remit here, items 1 and 2, the items in inventory, the natural items and the cultural items, and have small teams start to work on this and the areas where you feel like you have a lot to contribute, and then report back. I wonder if we should start there and then see what we can come up with. And then if there's a bigger picture meeting that we need to have to think through how to approach this, if we if we decide that after we see what is available now.
Yeah.
Because we're operating a little bit in a theoretical vacuum right now where I feel disconnected from the material. And I think that, I know for me, it would probably be easier to think about this if I was like actively engaging in what we do have, what's missing, who we need to talk to, like it might make more sense.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
so if we want,
Yeah.
I'm happy to volunteer, and to work with someone on like sort of identifying like prime agricultural and not just prime, but also just working farms and forest land.
So, like the old town plan, and energy, um, community, faculty, services, utilities, transportation. And these are just the generalized
Mhm.
land use and natural resources. So I don't know if you want to like take some of those that maybe we'd be good at and try to like take what's here and use it as a template, and then maybe we could add if we needed to.
I think that's a good idea. We shouldn't reinvent the wheel. But I think we have to start, I think, with what's on the remit. Like, and then we can use that as I think a template. That's a really good idea. I did want to kind of divide us into small working groups. Before we do that, I just want to be clear. I think sometimes we can start to do an activity that has like discrete tasks and check them off. But I did want to spend, we have about 5 minutes left, but to spend just even like a minute right now for us all to share why we're doing this, because I think unless we frame this in the why, we're just gonna start, checking off the boxes without framing it and in terms of like the purpose of this inventory activity. So, I think the other items to me are the why, but if other people have thoughts about that as well. I think we're doing this so that we can recommend to the legislative body of the municipality, the select board, whether they should purchase land. We can't do that without understanding the big picture. We need to do this so that if we're going to, administer lands, properties and other rights, that we know why we're doing that, and what the goals are. If we want to educate the public through, books, maps and other documents,
But to create it first.
we have to create it first.
That's
Know what
right.
matters, right?
Exactly.
So, I did just want to run through that before we got started, because I think it's important to just review that.
Do we need to spell out the stakeholders more explicitly and like what they would be looking for from our inventory, or do you think that comes along the way?
I think we definitely have to spell it out, but I'm wondering if we should do that in our small working groups and report back. Unless you think that this would be, we have a little more time. Do you want to? I think we should get started with this because it's now our fourth meeting and I think we've started to get our feet on the ground. And why don't we see what we can do this month, come back, talk about it. The stakeholder question is a really big one. And I think it's like actually a really complex question. And maybe we don't have enough time to cover it tonight. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so my thought here is that if we divide up the first one into like water bodies, scenic and recreational resources, agricultural land and forest land, or other open land, that's 4 categories. But I also think the items in number 2, which have to do with historic, educational, cultural, scientific, architectural, or archaeological values. I'm inclined to not treat that as a separate inventory, because I think that could be done within item 1.
It specifically says inventory. These are both
Yeah.
inventory issues.
And I think in talking to people, you're gonna get a mix of both. If someone's talking about their experience with scenic and recreational resources, they're probably gonna talk about potentially archaeological values or historic
farms.
history.
Yep,
Yeah, yeah.
historic and cultural significance, there's definitely gonna be overlap.
So who, if we have 4 working groups, we have 6 of us, so there might be some
doubles.
some doubles. We also need someone to decide, like, where are we gonna put our inventory information? Because it needs to be accessible to people who make decisions in the town and to the public, right? So I don't know that, like, someone might have to manage where all this information goes and organize that.
Do we want to take on all at once, or do we want to just pick 2 and have groups of 3
I was also thinking with number
do that.
two,
Yeah,
you could combine number two and so if we all split up into the three groups
yeah,
and then just plan on making number two part of
that's
our.
exactly, yeah.
We
That's,
split up into three groups.
Yeah.
So,
And that's always a question we answer within the survey. Like, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Cultural.
And are there any open meeting law dimensions to being in small groups and doing work?
if it's two of us,
Mhm.
then no, two is fine. If it's more than two, yes, that's a really
Okay.
good question. So if it doesn't feel too much, I mean, we're not gonna finish this in a month. This is like years of work, you know?
Yeah.
But if we could get started, at least getting our hands around what's out there, who we need to talk to, who would like to be, do we feel okay splitting us into groups of two? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who would like to work on the water bodies? That's streams, lakes, ponds, wetlands, and floodplains. I can volunteer myself. I'm interested.
Yeah, I think I would like to do that.
Okay.
Well,
I would like to learn about that, but.
Great subject. Who's interested in scenic and recreational resources? And that is in conjunction with Parks and Rec, so that would have to be a conversation.
I'm happy to do that, and I've already had some talks with Jennifer.
Okay, awesome.
I can do that.
Okay. Okay, so that means that
Agricultural is you, Jeannie.
I
Yeah.
would be happy to do that.
Margaret and.
And Forest
Yeah,
Land.
okay.
I would love that.
Marshland, cool.
So let's plan to meet with our partner and at least begin the conversation of like, what do we have already? Let's put it in one central location. I think that's a Tara question.
Mhm.
And I will follow up with where to put this information so that we're centralizing it. And then let's be prepared next month to share out our first baby steps into this like really big work. That sound good?
That sounds great.
Okay. Here. All right, it is now 8:02. Do we have any public comment?
Nobody in here now.
Right.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think people who was here earlier for a little while would pop in and.
Yes, my children.
Who was?
Yeah, watching there.
Oh, he was just, Kate's part and was just watching on Zoom.
The girls. So, all right, so with all of that, with the agenda having been covered, is there anything else that we missed tonight before we adjourn?
But what about specifically these Williams College kids who are coming into the town forest to do that work and that they're gonna
Mhm.
partner with the Conservation Commission? Like, do we have a plan for getting to know them and their timetable and their scope or?
So
how-
they were partnering with Parks and Rec, I believe, right? Unless I missed that.
They might, I'm not sure. I know they're gonna work with Tara to get a scope created.
Well, I mean, we should, then we should reach out right away. I did.
Yes,
I did do
yeah,
that.
Tara would be very open to that.
I definitely.
I don't know if, the select board's necessarily gonna create that scope. I think they kind of wanted the Conservation Commission to.
Just quoting from the Bennington Banner, Gardner and the students will also coordinate their work with the Town Conservation Commission and the Town Parks and Rec Committee, as well as communicate with the board through Tara.
Therian article?
This is a Bennington Banner article from 4 days ago.
No, but I mean, who wrote it?
I think I scanned that too quickly.
Oh, well,
Jim.
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Nice if they told us.
Yeah.
right. So that's why I was like, are we gonna talk about the fact that, yeah.
Thank you, Margaret.
I scanned it and I missed that piece. So yeah, we should definitely
And listen,
have a plan for reaching out like ASAP.
If we could kind of
Do you want
maybe,
to do that?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, we should talk to them at a meeting soon.
Right.
Maybe the next one.
Is that new business, but we're in the newspaper is talking to this group?
No,
Okay.
reach out to me or us, and I'm
Okay.
sure they will, but if you don't mind taking that on, even if we invite, even if we have Donald and Jim at the next meeting, I also think we should, if they're willing to come to the next meeting, that would not be excessive, yeah.
Great.
will they be around or have they're students? I mean,
They're starting in September,
Yeah.
according to.
I mean, will they be here now?
So if you're starting in September, then I mean,
think
we
so.
definitely have time to, like, I know I need to see Sarah about a separate issue
Okay.
upcoming. I mean, we definitely have time to connect with her and say,
Mhm.
Yes,
Why?
yes. Thank you for bringing that back up.
But yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Well, I'll mention that she's in touch with others, but just to follow up on this article specifically, that we want to get that on our agenda and she can advise us when. And
And if you want to invite her to the next meeting, just see me and I'll get it on the agenda if she's, yeah.
it could be interesting, you know, with Donald Campbell from the Vermont Land Trust, because it was a condition of the Vermont Land Trust to do this work.
Yeah.
And so it could be that, that maybe Sarah's,
He was here last week, but both of them were here.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, great. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second that motion.
Right, so the meeting is adjourned.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
So I think I will